Alright, hello everyone. I think you can sit down for a while because we're gonna have a long video to introduce our SS26 foil collection. Today we're gonna talk about front wings, mast and tails, and let you know more about the R&D process and what's behind the design of our foil range. I'm going to talk you through more of the program and the feelings of each models, when Charles and Doc are going to talk you through more technical stuff. Charles Bertrand has been the F1 designer for more than 12 years now, I think. I'm not really good with dates, but something around those lines. He's in charge of designing the shape of the foils. And Doc's been here for a while also, and he's in charge of the structural design. So I think they will explain more how they work together. We're not only three to work on the foil R&D, but we also have a test team that work, and every time we have a sample, we go on the water. And one of the testers, Matt, is also in charge of building the foil samples.
We've equipped now with a full prototyping capability here in-house. We have a CNC machine. We have a lamination area where we can laminate our foils ourselves. And we have two people working on it. So there's Matt and myself working almost full time between the office and here. We have a lot of tools in our possession to develop new foils. So the way we do is that we usually meet with Charles and the team at the end of 1 week. For example, we decide on what we are going to prototype for the next week. At the office, we can prototype. So about on average, we're prototyping 1 or 2 foils per week. The fun thing is that we can also ride our foils, the foils that we designed and thought of, within a week. So it's pretty cool. When we have a prototype that is ready, we can send the file to the factory. So we say, okay, we have a geometry that works well. We send the file to the factory. We make a production mold at the factory. We receive the samples, and usually when we receive the samples, I order multiple constructions. So one that is a little bit stiffer, one that is less stiff, and then with different ply drops, orientations, fiber type, and things like that. So we play around. So we usually have about 3 to 5 different constructions from the same mold. And we test them on the water, so we give them to the test riders to send the feedback. So usually they don't know what's inside, just so they're not biased by anything, because they know also what they have a tendency to understand what would be the correlation between what's inside and what they're going to feel. So to avoid that bias, we tell them, okay, that's A, B, C, D. Also depends, so the construction are different depending on the foils that we manufacture. So if it's a race foil for downwinding, for example, or the skate, for example, for surfing, or the sushi, or all the different foils with all the different disciplines, then we have different layups, and also depending on the size. So a 700, for example, won't necessarily have the same layup as the 900. So we're not making anything more complicated than it should be. So if they can be the same, they are, but they can also be different, and that's the test on the water that tells us that.
C'est Raphaël qu'on a pris. Trop bien les tests R&D.
On dirait qu'il va faire du twin tip plutôt quand même. Hop, à la maison, je la connais. Bah, écoute, on va tester des foils et différents choix de cambrure qui du coup font différents niveaux de plage de vitesse et regarder un petit peu ce que ça donne et comment on s'amuse plus avec les uns ou avec les autres en fonction des conditions.
There are going to be two soft foils in the F1 range this year, and both of them are really a new generation of foils in the way that they feel under the feet. We made a lot of work on the profiles, and we tried many, we really did a campaign where we wanted to try different things, open the possibilities and see what we could get from very different shapes. And what we were after is always more control and how we can make better use of the foil, better use of the maneuverability. So you want stability, but at the same time maneuverability.
I think we can start with the skate. The skate is the most successful foil of the F1 range. I think the secret behind that is because it's the most versatile foil of the range. You can do pretty much anything with the skate, downwinding, just cruising, free ride, but also surfing waves and surfoiling. The size range is very large, from 550 to 1150 square centimeters, and they all work the same across the whole size range. They all feel the same. They all have the same wow factor, from the 550 was made for wing racing or towing to the 1150 that's made for light wind.
So the Skate V3, it's still an aspect ratio of 8. This one is made for surfing a little bit further to the shoulder, or waves that are a little bit softer, and where you need speed and you need glide because you need to travel fast, and there's a little bit less energy in the wave. So you keep all the assets of the skate. It's a super renowned foil for surfing, and obviously we had to keep all its DNA. We wanted to improve the stability in pitch and the power delivery, and the new profile really helps in that way. And we've also gained a little bit of low end, so now the range of use is even bigger than before. So we have the same speed, but we have a little bit better low end. The pumping is also still great.
It is extremely hard to improve the skate, and we actually have a lot of people telling us, please don't touch it because we love it. And every time we try to improve something, for example, the top speed, we would end up losing the low end. Or improving the glides, we would end up losing maneuverability. And so that was really hard. And for 2.5 years, we've really invested a lot of time into improving that skate model. What's been improved with this new profile and new outline, and also the new connection, the T2 connection, I would say the biggest improvement is the pitch stability and control. And that was also the biggest improvement from V1 to V2, so it's the same for V2, from V2 to V3. This one, you can push on it really hard, you can go really fast, even in a critical section of the wave, or against chop, or on a strong downwind. The pitch stability will remain really stable. The front to back foot pressure will be very balanced. And I would say that's the big difference with the V2. We have really improved that. I would say we improved it by around 20%, so that's a major improvement. The second biggest improvement is the glide, and that directly comes from the new profile. we're gaining around 10% in glide compared to the V2. So that makes it an even more versatile foil, because the skate used to be mainly focused on surfing, but with that new added glide, it performs really well in a downwind too. Third thing is the maneuverability. We have improved the roll, the maneuverability, without losing stability, which is really important. And another thing is on the V1 and V2, the foil, when going full speed, was kind of locking in, and it was getting harder to roll, put on the rail. So that doesn't happen with the new profile and the new tips outline. So even if you go full speed on the big wave, then you will be able to carve and turn as much as you want. That's really important. Another thing is the low end. Very surprising. We have improved the low end without losing the top end of the foil. It's not the most major improvement. I would say it's around 5 to 10% improvement. But still, I used to ride myself 850. Now I ride the 750 most of the time. So that says a lot about the low end. And the last thing, and I think it's the most important with this model, is, and that's what makes it incredibly successful, and that what makes the wow factor in a skate range, is the drive. So what we call the drive is its ability to gain speed and momentum during a carve. So think snowboarding on a very flat slope, and you do a big carve and you gain speed. So that's the kind of feeling that the skate can provide in a wave or in a downwind. So we kept that in that model, because it's not only successful because it's versatile and it's a high performance foil, but it's also successful because it's a very exciting and fun foil to ride.
The SUSHI on the other side has got a lot more low end, but it's not traveling as fast. You know, it's really made to use more energy from the wave, and but the very distinctive asset from the SUSHI is how smooth and easy it is to turn and to roll, really. So this is something that is very noticeable as soon as you ride on the foil.
This is very exciting to me because it's the first time we are showing the SUSHI. It's a 2 years project, and the SUSHI project started to complement the skate in the same program or a very similar program. The thing is, in longer period and rounder waves and bumps, the skate's ability to get drive, ability to go fast and perform power carves is unmatched and very exciting. But in shorter periods or steeper waves or bumps, it can become a weakness, meaning that the skate will tend to always accelerate forwards and push you toward the shoulder of the wave, or go past the bump and catch the bump in front, and without the riders being really able to slow down and control its speed. And so the SUSHI has kind of the same versatile / surf-oriented program than the skates, but it's a slower foil on purpose. So that gives you an ability in waves, for example, to stay in the pocket of the wave, really on the inside, and perform tight turns, which the skates cannot really do today. Also, it has more roll, so the rail-to-rail moment is much better on the SUSHI than on the skates. You push on your toes and you're on a rail, but rolling the foil super easily without losing stability. I really hate foils when you go on it and the first jibe and you feel like on a log without roll stability. It has stability. Just when you want to turn it, it turns really well.
2 different programs here, and if you're focused on wave riding, it makes total sense to have both of them if you want. So you could have one, you could have the SUSHI in a certain size. The SUSHI has more lift, so you can use smaller sizes. Probably you can go down one size in terms of area between a skate and a SUSHI.
So yeah, you could have like a 740 sushi and an 850 skate, for example. It makes total sense.
We also worked a lot, and that's across the whole new range, but on pitch stability and control. And the goal was to have a surf-like feeling where pitch stability is not really a thing compared to foiling. And the goal was to be able to push on the bottom turn or on the top turn without feeling like you get too much front foot or back foot pressure. So it has more of a balanced foot pressure compared to the skate that is slightly more front-footed. This one is balanced or slightly back-footed, I would say. And that is really important to give that surf-like feeling. It's a foil with a higher camber than the rest of the range, especially the skate. So I would say the 740 sushi is equivalent to 850 skates. So don't hesitate to, go 1 or 2 sizes smaller than your usual skate. It's a foil, so as you understood, it's a foil for steeper, shorter period waves and bumps. And if we gotta compare it to regular surfing, for example, the skate will be a mid-length, while the sushi will be a high-performance shortboard. But yeah, I would say it's an incredible new feeling in the F1 range. Surf-like feeling. It works with mainly only carving tails. And yeah, I guess we're all looking for that as brands. Having a foil that performs and feels like a regular surfboard in a wave. And with the sushi, we are one step closer to that at F1. But also it remains very accessible because of its camber, playful and addictive. Once you step on this thing, all you want to do is carve everything and everywhere. So yeah, really, really excited to put it under the customer's feet and receive the first feedbacks. I think downwinding is developing more and more, and having wings and para wings and K-wings coming to the market really help developing the sport, because it gets easier and easier compared to before, when you had to take off with a sup and a paddle. And the level is decreasing too. I can see it at the beach every day. And I believe that the people that are able to downwind now, they're probably not gonna focus on racing and going straight. They're gonna want to have fun and do some carves and, play with the bumps pretty much. And that's what we call ocean surfing. And this foil is mainly made for that.
Another new foil this year is the Eagle. The Eagle is being reborn as a version 2. And it's always been a fun foil to ride, because it's fast, it's got great accelerations, it's got good glide, and it's also quite friendly to turn. So all these are really matching with surf downwinding, basically. When you're downwinding or free flying but carving on the bumps, the advent of the powering is really putting a highlight now on that on that style of riding. And so it's time for the Eagle to shine again.
The Eagle is another very versatile foil and my personal favorite of the whole range. It's a foil that's, compared to the skate, for example, is more focused on downwind/ocean surfing. What we call ocean surfing is basically downwinding, but focusing on carving and turning rather than just going down the line fast. Another secret behind the Eagle design is its aggressive profile. And that aggressive profile provides a lot of forward projection, which is really important if you want to go ocean surfing. Think about it, you're on top of a bump, and when you're with the Eagle will catch the energy of the bump and projects you forward, and you're gonna go down the bump pretty much. And that's this moment that's gonna help you do a proper bottom turn, come back on the bump and do a top turn. So real ocean surfing, not just playing on top of the bump, but just going down up like surfing a wave. And so that's the secret behind the Eagle, is the aggressive profile that projects you at the bottom turn in the bump, and that allows you to really surf. And so that's my favorite features, and this is my favorite foil because of this. You can really feel like ocean surfing.
What we did is we kept the same profile because it feels so nice in the accelerations and the speed, and it's a foil that generates glide through the speed. Basically, when you carve, you can generate speed, and that speed brings you the glide, and it's a virtuous cycle. Basically, it's really a foil that you feel the acceleration. You can see a bump coming, you see the trough in front of you, and you can really dive into it. And we changed the outline to improve the roll, and it has even better roll now than it had before. And the construction improvements have also helped, bringing more comfort and a smoother power delivery from that foil. So, great new foil, the Eagle.
Also, we have reduced the winglets to the minimum to really increase that roll and rail-to-rail ability. I would say the smaller sizes are focused really on ocean surfing, and the bigger sizes too, but also the bigger sizes are really great for intermediate to, I will not say beginners, but intermediate riders that want a foil. For example, if you come from a 7 Seas and you're looking to step up your game and have a more high performance foil, the bigger Eagle size will be very easy and very accessible for you to ride. So if you come from a 7 Seas, I think the next step is the Eagle. The Eagle works, and we sell it with the carving tails because we want to, focus really on the maneuverability and turning ability of this foil. But it works with pretty much any tail. So if you're looking for an Eagle with a bit more glide, you can go for the downwind tails or even downwind comp. I would say, to sum up, it's another very versatile foil, but more focused toward the downwind ocean surfing side. And I would say it's acceleration and ability to link bumps at high speeds effortlessly is very exciting, and it gets even more exciting when you start to carve and see how it turns.
The Eagle X has the new connections here, obviously, like every other model, but it also has updates in terms of the shape on the outer side of the wing has been refined, and what we get out of this is better speed and better turning. Basically, it's more intuitive to initiate the roll and the turns, and that makes for a more user-friendly foil, basically, overall. The new connection will make the foil, better and stiffer already, and that new shape feature on the wing is further improving the Eagle X this year.
Is more focused on pure downwind and endless glides. It has a surprisingly good maneuverability for such a high aspect foil.
The Eagle X is the 12 aspect ratio foil of our range. It's made for gliding on large swells, ocean surfing. It's great. It's a great foil for winging as well. It's a fast foil that has more glide than the Eagle thanks to the aspect ratio.
In the Mediterranean, for example, where we have short period bumps, you're gonna go probably for the Eagle. That will be more fitted to the conditions. And if you're in ocean conditions or open ocean swell or longer period swell, then Eagle X will be better suited. So both foil kind of share the same downwind / ocean surfing program, but they are made for different conditions. It looks aggressive, but it is very accessible. I would say the bigger sizes like 900, 1000 are perfect for intermediate riders that are looking for endless glide. So don't be afraid of this aggressive look. We have a better maneuverability and also a better maneuverability at higher speeds. So if you go down a big open ocean swell, you will still be able to perform carves when with a V1 it got a bit difficult if you went too fast. And last but not least, we felt like pretty much on every high aspect ratio foils, power spikes around the tips. So sometimes you could have the tips having a bit overpowers, and when it did, you were losing control and comfort. And so we have, with this new design around the tips, we have really cured that and improved that. So overall, better performing foil, easier foil, and more control, more comfort.
The new connection is bringing all its advantages to the new Eagle X, and we've also, updated the shape on the outer side of the wing to bring better speed and a more intuitive entry into the turns, and so basically makes the foil more user-friendly now, even more fun.
It is advised with the downwind tails to have that balance of both glide and maneuverability, but it works totally fine with the carving tail if what you're looking for is really maneuverability in carving. And it also works really fine with the downwind comp tails if what you're looking for is speed and glide. So I would say it's a foil for those who mainly want to focus on glides and carves and open ocean swells and gliding effortlessly. Okay, 7 Seas is another one of my favorite foil in the F1 range. I always have a 1300 in my car with a carving tail. I think this is a foil that is great for newer riders as well as experts.
The 7 Seas is the foil in our range which you could really use from your progressions, early progressions stages where you're still getting to grips with how to foil and wing, etc. And it's a foil that's also used by advanced riders in that want a light wind setup for para winging or for downwinding or for free flying. So it's a fantastic foil. We are bringing new sizes to the range this year. We now have a 1200, a 1400 and a 1600.
What we've done is we have decided to add 3 more sizes because the 7 Seas is our second behind the skates, second most selling foil, and we had a lot of demand to do intermediate sizes. And so we have added those 3 sizes to complete the range and offer more possibilities to our customers. I use it myself a lot in 15 knots and under 15 knots to carve on the smaller bumps. I really enjoy it. And for example, my girlfriend is also using the exact same foil for learning how to jibe, because the glide of the 7 Seas gives her more time to think about changing feet and changing the hands on the wings and everything. So it's really, I would say, a foil that anyone can enjoy. That's the most important thing about this foil. On the design side, we didn't change anything on the 7 Seas except for the new connection.
The new connection is going to make it easier and better at pumping, and it's going to bring more control to that foil.
So the design of the front wing didn't move. It just benefits from the T2 and with all the benefits that comes with the T2. It works well with any tail. I would advise a carving tail if you're looking for maneuverability, and or a downwind tail if you're looking for a bit more glide. And I would say, to sum up on the 7 Seas, I would say it's really a really fun foil and a foil for everyone to enjoy. The Jam is our dog start / light wind foil.
The 1600 and 1400 are very popular for dog starting and for light wind riding. You can also use the Jam 1400 for learning how to downwind, depending on your conditions and body size.
The Jam has a great speed range, so the low end is incredibly low. Obviously, for a dog start foil, it's necessary. but it can accelerate a little bit also compared to other dog starts foil on the market, and that's its strength, I believe. So that's why you can use in a little bit more disciplines than just dog starting. Design hasn't changed on Jam this year. We only took the Jam V1 and put it with a Titan 2 connection, but it brings a massive improvement.
Probably this is where the connection will have the bigger impact on, you know, how the loads are going to be transmitted from the inputs in your legs to you know, the behavior of the foil down in the water. And pumping has been so much improved thanks to the new connection in the Jam.
The Jam, I would say, is one of the foils that's been the most impacted by this change from T1 to T2, positively, obviously. So yeah, I would say this new version with the T2 is a new life for a great design.
The Escape is a foil that was designed, I can't remember how long ago, quite a long time ago. It is quite unique because this is the foil with the longest lifespan in our range. It was designed originally as a kite foil, performance kite foil, and it still is. And it's being used as well as a, you know, big wave towing foil. It's being used as a freestyle winging foil. It's just impressive how, you know, how good it is at all these different disciplines.
I think it's because the foil strikes a great balance of speed, control and accessibility, and everyone's really happy about it. It features a monoblock construction, which is one of the main features of this foil. It allows us to be very stiff and have a really slim fuselage to gain more control and speed and glide.
So we have three sizes. We have the 630, the 530 and the 430. The 430 is a little bit different in the way that it has a very specific profile, very low lift and very low drag. I mean, all the sizes have you know, pretty fast profiles, but the 430 is next level really.
It didn't change, same as the Jam, we didn't change the front wing design on this foil. We just switched from V1 to V2 with the new T2. But again, like the Jam, it makes a great design even greater because the T2 is bringing a lot more control at high speed, and especially during powerful pops and landings.
So the Escape was actually one of the first foil where we tested the new connection because it had to, you know, fit, you know, from the 1900 Jam all the way down to the 430 Escape. So we tried it on the 430 Escape with a slightly more compact section on the fuselage. So the Escape has a smaller fuselage than the rest of the range. But we tried it there, and the feedback has been great, really. So better stiffness through the connection, and we kept, you know, the drag impact really close to zero. The Escape is also a multi-world champion foil. I mean, it's a foil that's being used for big air hydrofoil kiting by Charles Brodel, and he's been world champion numerous times now. And quite similarly, Chris McDonald, who's been multiple wing freestyle world champion, is also using the Escape. There hasn't been so many foil that ride it during the official quota competition. It's a pretty unique foil.
All right, now we're going to talk about the different tails within the F1 range. A lot of people focus on the front wing mainly, but the tail is equally as important as the front wing.
Tail development is quite fun because we can also do it in-house. So with the CNC machine, lamination in-house, we can work along with Charles, who's doing the geometry. We can produce a mold and produce the wing very quickly. A tail within a day, we can almost have a mold and a tail ready. It's quite cool to be able to be very fast on the tail and optimize the different shapes.
The tail range in the f-one.world lineup this year is split in four models. We have the carving range, which is probably the biggest one and the one that's the most widely used. So these are to go with all the surf wings and all the wings where you like to carve. You're going to want a carving tail, and we have improved slightly the shape this year through the outline to get better speed and better maneuverability. And we also have a new size all the way at the bottom of the range, which is the 123. And this one is a little bit different because it's got more aspect ratio and a different profile. And it really is, it's a different recipe basically to reach higher performances with a smaller stabilizer to go along with your high performance front foil.
We used to have two designs, the carving and the carving W. We have managed to fuse them together. So the carving W had more top speeds, but the carving had more low end. And we really struck a mix of both and took the best of both worlds for this new carving range. It can be paired with pretty much every front wing and will give more, playful feeling to any front wing. And yeah, I guess it's a weapon of choice if you need the maximum turning ability.
The downwind tail line it's got an improved shape this year with a little bit of an anhedral in the front view. This is going to help with better turning and better control. So the aspect ratio of these stabilizers are around 9, so these are pretty efficient stabs for free flying and downwinding. You can match them with a 7Cs front wing or with an Eagle X, for example.
Also a new one in the range is a downwind tail. So as you can see, it is pretty obvious that this one is a mix of the carving and the downwind comp. So the goal was to keep take a bit of glide from the downwind comp, take a bit of carving abilities from the carving tail, and mix it to have this tail. It's a more versatile tail, I would say. It works across the whole f-one range of front wing. I would say that if you want only one tail in your quiver that does everything from downwinding to surfing, then the downwind tail is a good one.
And then we have the downwind comp line, which goes to pretty small sizes all the way down to 85 square centimeters. These ones are between 12 and 15 aspect ratio, and these are really the highest performance choice you can make in terms of stabilizers and unlocking glide and speed for performance downwinding, basically.
This one, as you can probably see, is built for glide. It has an extreme aspect ratio and a very aggressive outline and shape, and that's in order to maximize glide and speed. Made to provide a very high forward projection when pumping, so every time you're going to pump, it's going to push you forward, and that's really what you're looking for during a downwind. And it has to be paired, in my opinion, with higher aspect ratio foil, so think Momentum, Eagle X, Eagle. I know some riders, my dad for example, he loves to use it on the 7Cs to give it more glide, more speed. So again, it works with every front wing. So don't hesitate to play and play with the compatibility of the F1 range. I would say this tail is for you if you're really focusing on performing fast and effortless downwinds. The last one is the pumping tail. This tail only works with the jam because when we were designing the jam, we wanted to create a foil that was as effortless as possible to pump. And for that, we needed a front and back foot balance that was a bit specific. So we had to design a tail specifically for the jam. And so that's why we have a pumping tail that we only sell with the jam.
So with your same front wing, if on some day you want to push more onto, you know, the glide, you're going to take a downwind tail, for example. And if another day you've got better bumps to carve, then, you know, and you want to focus more on turning, then you can choose a carving tail to get that that feel from your foil, and everything's possible.
For the mast, it's the process of R&D is a little bit different compared to the front wings. So front wings and tails we can do them in-house. For the mast, it's a bit more complicated because of the connection at the bottom, and the top plate also is quite tricky to make. The benefit of making that in-house is less important than for the wing, because for the wing we're working with a profile and things like that, so it's quite easy to remachine in the mold and reiterate very rapidly, rather than on the mast. Usually with the CFD and the analysis that Charles does, usually we're pretty sure about the profile that we are going to put into the mast. Depending on the disciplines, and depending also on the stiffness that we want in torsion and bending. And so on the mast we usually set and we can invest in the production mold more rapidly into the development. What's different is that the mast is the connection between yourself and the plane, and so you need to have 100% confidence into what it's going to do. And so a mast that is going to wobble at high speeds, for example, or high frequencies, will not be suited. So you need to have something that is like a very big connection between yourself and the front wings on the plane. So with the different constructions, we iterate with the fiber types and the fiber orientations to play between the bending and the torsion, because you have a finite amount of material that you can put to. Usually the fibers that are at the top of along the surface are the most efficient, and then as you go towards the center of the mast, it's less and less efficient. So you have to choose between, depending on the shape of the profile of the mast, you have to choose between what you're going to prioritize between the torsion and the bending. And so you choose the order of the fibers, also quite important, because the fibers at the top will be more efficient. So
the mast range this year has a number of options. We have the 16mm mast that uses standard modulus fiber. This is the most affordable version, and it is pretty stiff, really.
The 16mm, I would say, is the best value for money in F1 range. Our goal was to make the carbon masts as accessible as possible for the customers.
The stiffness is actually equivalent to the 14mm HM, and the 14mm HM will have better glide, and because it's got slightly lower drag. That 14mm is also available in UHM, so ultra high modulus, and so this uses stiffer fibers to increase the level of stiffness of the mast. So that means more control and more stability,
You can, for those of the riders that like to push hard and ride hard, this is the mast that will be the most rewarding to use for these guys.
The 14mm high modulus carbon mast is mostly for people focusing on glide. Being 2mm thinner than the 16, it provides a much better speed, top speed, average speed, and glide than the 16. The high modulus carbon being higher grades material makes sure it remains very stiff still. I would say this one is made for people that want the best possible masts and glides without having to invest into an ultra high modulus option. The UHM, so ultra high modulus 14mm, this is my personal choice, and this is the stiffest mast of the F1 range. Yeah, that's really for those who want the stiffest option. The 14 UHM is much stiffer than the rest of the range. It keeps the glides of a 14mm HM, but really improves the control, efficiency, and stability. So it's really recommended for those who want to push hard during the carves, or heavier riders, or for riders using bigger foils. But if you really want no compromise on stiffness, the 14 UHM is what you're looking for.
And we also now have a 12mm mast geometry. This one is only available in UHM because you have to compensate the loss of stiffness of the section with the modulus of the fibers.
This one makes no compromise on the drag. 12mm thickness is fast and it really helps you connect any bump effortlessly. The stiffness is close to a 14 HM. And it has a little bit less maneuverability than the 14 HM or UHM due to the fact that it has a slightly longer cord to maintain the stiffness. So this one is for the downwind riders that want to maximize speed and glide.
And this mast has a very slightly longer cord length than the 14mm, because if you drop everything, thickness, cord, you lose just so much in terms of section stiffness. So we chose to drop the thickness, and that helps us keep the stability of the section and also stability when you ride. The hydrodynamic stability. If you want to put the focus more on one, the 12mm will be more for downwinding and going as fast as you can, and the 14 will be better for turning and carving.
Also, on the new range, we have obviously the new T2 connection with 2 M8 screws and the new slotted masts where you don't have to completely remove your screws in order to assemble your mast. Yeah, the range is structured very easily. Once you progress, then you have a choice and you pick the right program for you.